Hello folks and welcome back to season 4 of the Let's Face It podcast. In this week's episode we're joined by Danielle Darcy. Danielle is the owner of Hot Yoga Belfast, and she's also in training to be a somatic sex therapist. This week's episode was very deep, very personal to both of us. We talked about connection and disconnection and all things sort of building a relationship with yourself. I hope you enjoy the episode. Folks, we're absolutely delighted to announce that this week's episode is brought to you by Tag. If you are a dog owner, if you're a cat owner, then this is exactly for you. Basically, what Tag is a QR code which is around the collar of your dog or your cat, and if your dog goes walkies or your cat goes walkies and you can't find him or her, then this is absolutely perfect, because basically if I find your dog or find your cat anywhere, I can go up, scan the QR code, then it can give me as much information as you want it to give me in terms of who owns the dog, next of kin if you like, and I can take you directly back home as well via maps on your phone. What a wonderful idea, because I'm forever seeing on Facebook and all that crack that people have lost their dogs and all, so this is a brilliant initiative, and we want to thank them very, very much for their support. If you're interested in Tag, check out their website, which is below, www.fetchtags.com, and we have a very special gift this week, because if you use the code Let's Face It, so LETSFACEIT, you'll get 10% off your new Fetch Tag for your pet. So yeah, www.fetchtags.com. These devices are £15. They're one-off payment. There's no subscription, nothing like that, and you can get 10% off using our Let's Face It code. So yeah, enjoy this week's episode, and don't forget to like, share, and all that crack. And yeah, welcome back to season. What are we on now, Sean? Season 4 of the Let's Face It podcast. It's been a while since we've been here, and a well-deserved break for myself and Sean to go and focus on other things. I was away in England a couple of times doing different bits and pieces in terms of where we're going to go next for Let's Face It, and we're going to go with going to systemize things a wee bit more and bring in a wee bit of life coaching or mentoring and stuff like that too. So looking forward to that. We'll be launching that in the next couple of weeks, so we've been working hard, and I want to thank everybody from the bottom of my heart for coming to last week's Fela event. It was really special, and it definitely filled me up, so hopefully it filled you up too. So no, thank you for all the support. So we haven't been laying on the beach, we haven't been taking it easy, we've been working flat out, so it's been great. So thank you for your patience. I know a lot of people have been messaging, looking to see where we were, but we're back anyway, and we're back with a bang today with someone that I've been trying to get on the podcast for a while, and it is Danielle Darcy from Hot Yoga Belfast. And I think just to put into context or in the perspective or whatever of how this sort of came about, me reaching out to Danielle and asking her for a chat, I've been sort of very open and honest through it the last 18 months in terms of where I've been and where I'm going and where I want to get to, and a whole lot of yous have been on that journey, I suppose, with me, and on your own individual journeys. And I think that I often talk about tools and doing the work and different wee tools that I've sort of developed, Danielle, over the last while. And it's funny because I was reading a thing the other night, and it was like it was along the lines of, if you didn't laugh at yourself a year ago, then you're doing it wrong, and you don't know until you know, basically. And just different wee tools that I've developed, and I'm like, right, what can I do in this next season, if you like, in terms of getting people in and who have been a part of that, in terms of me enhancing and growing as a person and being more comfortable in my own skin. And I think that I did come up to you one day after one of the yoga classes and told you how much it helped me in terms of maybe I did have a lot of issues with body image and how I looked and being self-conscious and different things like that, and your service provided me to be more comfortable within my skin in terms of, even at the end you started to do some of the somatic stuff. You have a twist basically on your yoga sessions, and we're going to get into all of it, but I think that before we started, I just want to thank you for not just coming on the podcast but having that impact, I suppose, in my life over the last over the last lot of months. Like, it's been great, like, and it gives me a new sort of, because every now and again we need a wee injection of whatever to keep us going, and to give us a new lease of life, and to give us more of a purpose, because it can become a wee bit monotonous sometimes, you know, recovery, as you know. But yeah, welcome. What's the crack?
Thanks.
You keeping alright?
Yeah.
So I suppose just to start us off, Danielle, like we start every podcast, it's near enough getting a wee bit of a background of who you are and what you do and where you come from and all that crack, and then we'll see where this takes us. And I suppose if anyone does find anything that we're talking about today in any way triggering, there'll be a list of numbers that you can contact below, or you can reach out to myself or Danielle as well, and we'd be more than happy to have a conversation around any of these areas, I suppose. So I think that's important to know. But yeah. Welcome.
Thanks.
All good.
Yeah. And like, I just want to go back to that part where you said, like, because I know you said we exchanged a voice note back and forth about it, but like that moment that you came to me at the end of class, like, that really touched me, because I think this acknowledgement is such a powerful thing between humans to create connections. And also, like, whenever you came and said to me, you know, like, this has really helped me, and it was more like it's to be seen, to be witnessed in that, and like to be also like acknowledging that there's like a deeper thing that's happening, and that's where I am on my journey with. Okay, I'll weave in my story, like part of me as well. So I've been teaching yoga for embodiment practices, meditation, yoga for about 8 years now. I've owned a studio in Belfast for 5 years. So I have really, I have access to a community of people that actually are so open and willing to change, and that I work with them like fire medicine, like I work with the flames, with heat stress and heat therapy. And there's something so much deeper than just stretching in the heat that's going on in that room. And through my journey of, I'm now training to be a psychotherapist, and also training to be a somatic sexological body worker at the same time. So it's like a somatic therapist that specialises with people's sexuality and also just our embodiment and what that means to be in our bodies. So combining all of that in together, I'm starting to like look at yoga and look at what I've been doing for the past 8 years through a completely different lens. Like over the past few years, I've been teaching it from this trauma-informed nervous system perspective of really educating people about what happens when we go into the heat, into sauna, what happens whenever we are tapping deeper into this meditative state, and how we can combine this all in hot yoga. And then now adding on this deeper level of like, I can also add in the somatics of it. Like, you know, you are in your body in this experience, and what does it mean to be in your body, and how do we use breath to release? How do we use the heat to like shed layers? And yeah, I think if you speak of that, like spin, like how I teach, like that's my essence, like how I teach now is like bringing all of this into like a 60-minute practice. So then when you came at the end and you were like, yeah, I can see that, you know, you're doing something different, and you said something about like my teaching had changed or something, and that was just such a beautiful moment, and I really like, it really stayed with me. So I thank you for that, because I think like I don't acknowledge people enough, and I'm trying to do that differently now, you know, trying to like, really say to people like, hey,
you're great.
Yeah, you're great, and like what you do is amazing, and like thank you for what you do. And like we were speaking as well before about conversations, and like every single conversation has something in it, like it has something, and every single person that comes into my field, every single conversation, there's medicine there for me, there's something there for me, and like that's been so fun as well, you know, like every conversation I have with my parents, I'm like, there's something here, there's growth here, or there's a deeper understanding here, there's an opportunity here. Every single conversation with a stranger on the street, with the barista at the coffee shop, like there's a moment, there's something there, an invitation for deeper connection. And as a human being, if that's all I really want as a human, is to feel like I belong in a tribe, to feel like to strive for belonging and harmony and connection. And then to see that, like, we have those invitations everywhere, like we are constantly being invited to connect to others and to connect ourselves. And that brings me back to like my work, which is all about that, like reminding people of their intrinsic wholeness, like, and reminding people of their aliveness. And it all comes down to like reconnecting to our bodies, reconnecting to our communities, reconnecting to our lands, to our emotionality, to our physical bodies. Like, does that answer a question?
Yeah.
Was there a question at the
No, it's just a bit of background of what. No, and it is. Like, listen, it's so interesting, and I, to be honest with you, Danielle, probably one of my best traits. And I was talking to you on the way down the road about how critical I suppose I am myself, but I think stepping into the right, but what are you good at? What is going well? And I think one of the best things about me is that I can hold a conversation with the CEO of a company who's worth whatever X amount of millions, or I can walk through Castle Street and sit beside a homeless person and have a conversation.
Yeah.
And back to what you're saying there, because there's a purpose to it all, and there's a level of connection. But do you think that I'm going to ask you, where does that even come from for you? Because for me, like, being the empathetic person maybe that I am through suffering, maybe, I don't know, and knowing that you weren't always valued, and didn't always feel valued, so maybe I went and seek that off people. I don't know, but where do you think that comes from, where you're like, okay, I'm going to stop and give this person the time of the day and have that connection or conversation, and it might only be 10 seconds, but you might learn something, but more importantly, it might be the best 10 seconds that person could have, maybe they're having a bad day making coffees or whatever, but where do you think that comes from, that obviously the awareness, and now, but where it comes from a place, obviously, doesn't it? Or what do you think?
Oh, I fucking love humans. Like, I love watching people. I love, like, not watching people, but I love just, like, I love learning about people through, I guess, from teaching, like, so many people for so long. Like, my job has been really intense for a long time, like, teaching big classes for many years, and also, like, having lived a lot of my life feeling so disconnected from myself, from the world, from aliveness. And that was kind of my route to feeling like I existed, was by teaching, like, having these people, like, in my classes and in the studio, and really feeling like that was my support system for a long time, of just, like, I would feel disconnected, I would feel lonely, I would feel abandoned by myself, but yet I would have these incredible conversations with someone that was coming to yoga, and, like, that's what gave me a real, this love for human,
a sense of belonging.
Belonging, and it's through, like, now it comes from a deeper sense of a knowledge, like a knowing now, like, from my own work, like, I belong, I am whole. But for a long time, I think I found that through community, and being, like, really, it just has this feeling of being held, like, this community that was created in the yoga studio that I helped to create, that was created around me, and just feeling that nurturing from that. And then that gave me this strength to find it myself within. And now my work is in one-on-one and in group facilitation, as well as yoga. So it's now, really working to, like, remind other people of that, like, of that healing benefits of, like, if you feel that you're not whole, if you feel like you don't belong, like, this is where we come into community, and we get to do this for each other. We get to come together and hold each other in that, and remind each other, like, you belong here, like, I love you, like, and I don't need to know you to love you, like, I don't need to know your story or know your trauma, I don't need any of that, like, I love you, I see you, you're human, you exist, you belong. Like, that's the piece that I just, like, I'm so excited about. And I have this, like, a couple of months ago I was in Glastonbury, and I've been talking about this, like, the ripple effect of a smile, and that's, like, speaking to this connection of, like, these 10-second conversations that we can have with each other, and we don't know what that's going to do for someone else's life. At the same way, like, someone who just smiled at me on the way to work this morning they have no idea how that's going to impact my day. Like you said, I could have been having a really hard morning, and someone just smiling at me or saying hello to me, acknowledging me. Oh my God, I exist.
Yeah.
You know, someone's walking down the road like, I don't belong here. I'm an outcast. I'm abandoned. I am isolated. I'm alone. And someone just says like, hey, how are you? It's like, whoa, I'm being witnessed. I'm here. And I was like, I was in Glastonbury. I just come off this big training there, and I was just feeling so like overflow. Like I was feeling like, not only was I feeling whole, but I was just feeling like I was in overflow of like love and life, and just so ecstatic. And I was just walking through the streets, and there was this little old man coming down towards me, and I like caught his eye, and he had his head bowed down, and he looked at me, and he must have been about 80 or 90 years old. He had like a staff and a cape, and he was just the coolest person. And I smiled at him, and he stopped in his tracks, and he like brought his hands up, and he prayed, and he dropped his head, and I dropped my head as well. And when we both looked at each other, we both like cry. Like I was like crying, like bawling with tears. And it was just this simple moment of like I'll never meet that man again. That didn't mean anything. There was no expectation. There was no, okay, now I owe you a conversation, or you owe me this. And then we just walked along. And like for the rest of the day, that smile stayed with me, that man like pausing and stopping to acknowledge. And it's like, we can do this for each other in every moment. Like every single day we have opportunities to just like pause and smile at someone, or just like interact with someone, or catch someone. And it doesn't have to take any of our energy. It can just be a simple like smile, eye contact, like I see you, you exist. And like you said, like it can create a ripple effect. And in that acknowledgement, like we can see then like that human connection, that desire to connect. And it also comes from this like verticality of like I am whole, you know, and like we can connect through that. Like I'm not connecting to you because I want something. I'm not looking to you to smile at me because I'm not whole, or I'm not enough, or I need to be validated. It's like we can just give each other this from a place of love, and
like an unconditional love.
Yeah.
And it's so interesting. And the word it's like jumping at me there. You mentioned at the start about connection, and then you said it a couple of times throughout there. The connection, and then but it all started from not being connected.
Yeah.
What? Because there's a lot of people not connected. Like, and it's funny because, and we were talking about like not judging and stuff like that. That's something that, you know, you're working on, and taking people for face value and what they are. And, but I can't help sometimes, like, I purposely don't get connected in some things because it's just not in alignment with me in terms of what society is kind of scary at the minute for like gossip and just things that I'm not really interested in. But I don't think there's anything as bad as than feeling disconnected, or feeling like you're not worthy, or you're just lost. And the best way, I suppose, I keep probably taking it back to me, even in certain situations, about you're not living, you're in existence. Like you're only sort of floating along. You don't really have that sense of community like what you have created within hot yoga and stuff like that. So what does this connection, what did that even look like or feel like, or what did that for you?
Wow. Yeah.
It's a scary place, isn't it?
Yeah, I know. I'm feeling it. I'm like, oh yeah. Yeah, because it felt like for so long.
You weren't getting away with that easy.
Yeah, I know. Ooh, okay, cool.
That's like a 10-minute warm-up.
Yeah. Sean, we're done. No, thank you for that question. It's good. And it feels like for me, like disconnect was like very much like I severed at the neck. Like I was very much like cognitive. Like I could have told you, like read all the books, and that's actually not even going back as far as I need to go back, because I think before that, like if I were to look at a timeline of timeline of like where I've been and where I'm coming and where I'm going to, like there was a time before I even started to be aware of trauma, or aware that I had experienced something that created a disconnect, where I was literally feel like I was just asleep, like I was dead. Like I genuinely feel like I was dead. I was like so disconnected from my body. I couldn't feel like pleasure wasn't even like a thing. Like I was binge eating, I was taking drugs, I was drinking, I was partying, I was like living incredibly recklessly, and it was all because I was so disconnected from my body that I needed to feel something. Like it was only like when I would go to the extremities of something that I would even feel like any sense of aliveness. And I think that comes back to this like human essence of wanting to belong and wanting to feel alive, is that like I was just striving, like I was striving for belonging through partying and just going along with anything, not having any boundaries, not having any knowledge of like, oh, what do I want? What do I need? It was just constantly like, how do I fit in? How do I say yes to this so that I'm not ostracized? How do I go along with this and adapt to this and tolerate this and allow this so that so no one ever knows that I'm a phony. No one knows that I'm actually not like, I didn't feel human. And that disconnect would have manifested through, all of those like coping strategies to survive. And I lived away. I lived in Manchester for a couple of years, and those were really the darkest times. Like I would have been like deep in, partying and just not connecting to anyone that was really, like I had friends that really, I have so much love for them because they really like held me, like kept me alive. You know, like even though we were all partying and doing all these reckless things, like, they still held me. And like now when I meet them, like they remind me of a part of me that for a long time I was really, I had a lot of shame around that part of me, that old self.
Did you find it triggering?
Oh, yeah, so much. And like I would have avoided them and not wanted to spend time with them and really like isolated myself from them. And I do think I needed that time, because I needed that time to mourn this old version of me that was gone and was dead, and to be reminded of that again. I think I would have found myself adapting, or just like, okay, I'll just go back to that old person, I'll just have a drink, I'll just have a smoke, I'll just do this. So I do think that time is necessary, and that time of like isolation and stepping away and kind of going into the cave and going internal and going like all the healing work that I've done has really allowed me to like, you know, meet these people again and be like, oh, I have so much love for that version of me, like that Danielle that really like just wanted to fucking survive and had all of these strategies to do that. And and like have so much compassion and love for that part of me, instead of shaming it, or instead of saying like, Jesus, like you shouldn't have done that and shouldn't have done that. It's like, like all of those ways, the strategies were survival strategies. And like I think it was like around, I had my studio and I was pouring my life, myself, my worth into the studio. Like I was not Danielle. I was like, I am Danielle Hot Yoga Belfast. Yeah. I am Hot Yoga Belfast. And like, that is like, again, like this safety mechanism of like, okay, I have no idea who the fuck I am. I have no idea what this body is, what anything is. But I know that there's a physical thing here. It's yoga. I know that that's not, okay, I'm a teacher. I am Danielle. I am this. All these I ams that really did create this structure for me to then die a couple of times. So like, over COVID, I went straight into like really hard work mode, because I could work over COVID to a degree. I could work over COVID actually. So I like worked every hour under the sun, and it was like this moment of, I'd put all of these expectations on like, when I survive COVID, when I pay off all my bills, when I, you know, pay off all my debt from the studio, and when I had all these when I's, you know, and a lot of my stuff was I'll get into that as well. Like, you know, when I look a certain way, when I get here, I will be happy. Yeah. I will be enough. So I got to those points, you know. It started as when I have a studio, and then that came, and I was like, okay, it's not that. Yeah. Then I got this, and it's not that. So I had these like real, and whatever happened, whatever part of my life I was at, whatever fucking stars aligned, I got to these goals, and instead of changing the goalposts, which I'd done for all my life, the goalpost stayed the same. I got there and I was like, oh shit, I'm not happy. Oh shit, I'm fucking, who am I? Like, who is Danielle? If I'm not this, if I'm not the studio, if I'm not Danielle, then who am I? And like, I remember writing in my diary, in my journal, like, I felt like I was dying. It was just one morning I woke up and all my hair started to fall out, and I couldn't speak and I couldn't cry. I was just like convulsing with tears. I was just grieving, and I felt like I was dying, and I kept saying to my partner at the time, God bless his soul, like, I was like, I feel like I'm dying. He was like, what's happened? I was like, I don't know. Like, I just feel like I am dying. And it was like had this moment of this choice of like, okay, so if none of that is you, if you're not the studio, if you're not any of this, like, who are you? And now let's go into that. And that was really the start of it. Like,
yeah, no, thanks for sharing that. It's powerful, and I think that. By the way, see anytime I laugh or smile, it's because I can relate to it. It's not because I'm laughing. I think you knew
I thought it was because I was saying the F word, and I was like, oh my God, am I allowed to swear?
Oh, no.
Okay,
It's,
You're like, I'm going to have to edit all of these swear words out.
No, you can swear. It's fine. Okay, cool. But anytime I smile or laugh, it's just because I can relate. And that's my way of like, I don't know, I laugh at myself because if you didn't laugh, you cry. Yeah. Basically.
Oh, here, and laughter is also, like, I'm learning this at the minute. Laughter is the body's way of saying, I didn't die.
Yeah.
Like, it's going like, oh, yeah. And like this overflow of energy, of emotion, like, yeah, I've done that as well. Like, yeah, laughter's medicine. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what Tony actually said last week at our event too. But so we talked about connection there, and then so we went from a disconnection to ultimately being connected, and then now there's sort of like an identity crisis going on in there too, where but you know what I mean.
Just thrown in there.
yeah. But I think it's all part of yeah. But I think that all is on the journey of becoming connected, because you need to figure out who you are. And I have this sort of triangle, right, Danielle? And it's like, okay, so what is my purpose? Who am I? And what do I do every day?
Okay.
And so what do I do every day? Is it in alignment with who I am? And is it in alignment with my purpose? And is it back again to, you know, what I'm doing every day, basically? And if they're not all in alignment with each other, then at some point I'm going to like go off track and not be in alignment with me, basically. So basically I'll then be doing stuff to please other people or to whatever, or be connected with a certain group that I shouldn't or don't want to. It doesn't fill me up, but maybe the world is dragging me that way, or social media is dragging me that way, or society, or maybe the themes I'm involved in, just things like that. So I try and like stick to that wee triangle. But you mentioned there about, right, okay, so we're in this sort of lost place where like basically running away from how we feel because we don't know how to feel. Yeah. In a way, and I always talk about, even let's label this as like recovery. Yeah. And the good thing about recovery is you get your feelings back. The bad thing about recovery is you get your feelings back.
Yes.
And it's like, fuck, and what do I have to do with all these feelings? And see that sort of journey of becoming like, and I can relate to that. And I said to you in the car there about like going into an AA meeting and being like, oh, my name's Donal and I'm an alcoholic, or I'm Donal and I'm an ultra hurler, or I'm and all like, but am I? Do you know what I mean? No, but who am I? Do you know what I mean? What makes me tick? Like, who do I like spending time with? What conversations do I like having like this? Love this. So why not do it more and bring you more connected, and more centered, and more present, and all these things? Because I can only think of, even, you know, if you're having conversations that aren't in alignment or back to the triangle, then you're not really present in that conversation. Are you really? Like, you're thinking, Jesus, I can't wait to get away from her to do this or that. And you may be thinking that now, but whatever. So there's a lot, and people often reference about doing the work. Yeah. And I've done it loads of times too, but what does that look like? So how do I figure out who I am? Basically, how did you figure out, from being in Manchester, doing whatever, to, oh, I'm going to have the biggest yoga studio in Belfast and have yoga and create a community of good people and good vibes. And because I know there's people watching this podcast have a drive and a passion, and they just don't know how to make the first step. Yeah. And it's tough. Yeah. But the more we sort of, and we know we have our own opinions about stories, but even that journey of acceptance, or that journey of becoming the best version of you, how do you, how does your alignment work, I feel like, rather than, I suppose that's how mine kind of works, and that's how I keep myself on track, but how does that work out for you? Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And like, I actually also, like, the setting up of the studio, like, that was a lifeline for me. Okay. And that was, I actually came at that from a place of like, I didn't know who I was I didn't have a purpose. I felt so lost and so abandoned by myself and abandoned by life, and had this big story, and really the studio came along at a point, and it was this crossroads of like, you can continue to live this life and this belief, and you can have this story, like 100% enjoy the story, like revel in the victimhood. And like, yeah, we were talking about language as well. Like, I use the word victimhood for myself, my own experience. Like, that's how I was in victimhood. And I got to this.
Sorry, describe that a bit more. Like,
so just like I wasn't helping myself. I was just like, I have a story, I've experienced trauma, I'm disconnected from my body, and that's it. This is how I am in the world. I don't trust men, I don't trust relationships, I don't trust love, I don't trust my body, I don't trust my boundaries. I had all of these, like, and then I also had this, like, and that's fine, and this is what life is. Like, life doesn't have to be good, life doesn't have to be, I can just be this way. And that was like an really underlining shadow part of my existence. You know, on the outside, I was very much like, put on a pretty face and like, you know, everything's fine, I'm good, keep busy, keep productive. So that was the underlying current of it. That was really my deeper belief system, was just like, yeah, life is shit and I'm going to be like this forever and I'm going to be broken forever. And it did get to a crossroads where I got this opportunity to open the studio and like, as I said, this creation of this community and this creation of, and then having this like real purpose of like, this, I believe the studio is a being. It's like it's a living thing, right? And I had this like child that I was coming in. I was like, I opened the doors. I'm the guardian. Like, I feel like I'm the guardian of this thing that's bigger than me. It's not even about me anymore, which is, thank God, you know, it's not about me. And it really did give me purpose. And I love that. Like, I think purpose is so important. And it gave me purpose when I didn't have one. And it was my lifeline. It was my raft. And like, I say that all the time when I'm speaking about the studio. Like, I think I was at a point where I don't know if I would have survived. Even though on the outside I was very much like, okay, I'm a yoga teacher now, I'm functioning, I'm doing this. Like, I do think that my journey into teaching yoga and helping other people or just being of service, like, that really was it. Like, I don't know if I could help anyone at that point, but I was definitely like, I can be of service, I can open the doors and I can put on a class and you can come here and you can use the heat and hear the instructions and we can move together. And that was like, to be of service was really what kept me alive. And then to get to the point where I actually now have this spaciousness because the studio exists and I've had all of these wonderful opportunities to now get to a point where, like I said, like this moment of, okay, so who am I? And that, like, I needed a lot of spaciousness for that because I needed to feel secure and safe. I needed to feel that safety so that I could actually, like you said, start to feel, because as soon as I opened up this box, and it definitely felt like, if I think of moving from disconnected to connection, it felt like, and I did this work, I experienced this reconnection through the work that I'm now studying to facilitate, essentially, to be a therapist in, which is somatic embodiment work. And it's also through conscious relating and connecting, and also through sexuality and understanding sexual trauma, and not even trauma, but also just understanding the ways that we have learned how to relate to others and to ourselves through our sexuality, through pleasure. And all of this opened up this blockage that I had at my neck, and all of a sudden everything that I'd been learning, all the trauma training, all of the embodiment practices that I had been like absorbing, like through years of teaching yoga and years of learning about meditation and breathwork, I knew it all, but it wasn't embodied. And then all of a sudden this, like a trapdoor came out, and everything just started to drop down and everything started to flow, and I could feel everything all of a sudden. And with that came massive dysregulation, massive re-traumatization. Every single touch that I experienced, I could feel it, and I could just be sent back into this spiral. Like, I was in a relationship at the time that became like super activating, super traumatic. Like, everything just became like, my body had been reborn, and all of a sudden my body was like, this is what I've been trying to protect you from, is this, like, feeling everything so intensely. So I went from feeling totally disconnected to feeling my body, and then being like, holy fucking shit, like, this is what it feels like to be alive, you know, like the intensity of the spectrum of aliveness of like feeling everything. So like my work over the past 2 years has been like, okay, so what happens when we reconnect? what happens when we start to become more embodied, when we become into our bodies after a long period of time of being disconnected. How do we work with the stories that we've been telling ourselves? How do we work with the trauma that we've been disconnected, like that, because we have a strategy to survive. Because like I don't think I would have survived this, full stop, if I didn't have all these strategies to disconnect me from my body.
Of course, and the programs.
Exactly. I needed to get to this one particular point in my life where I felt, okay, I have safety in the studio. I have safety and I have support system around me. I have this, I have this, I have this. And then my body went, okay, now we're ready. You know, with that simple question of like, who am I? And then my body came online and I started to feel everything. And I had spaciousness and I had security and I had safety, this feeling of safety, to start to dive deep into the body and dive deep into trauma that I'd experienced, into what had happened to me during those years of being disconnected, like all the ways that I had been re-traumatizing myself, you know, and like the body, a fucking book, you know, the body keeps the score. And
right on the guy.
Yeah, oh my God. I always think of this, like this meme or this meme that I've seen that's like, the body keeps the score, and then the guy's like, I wish it wouldn't. Like, can you please just stop keeping the score for one day? Like, and that's like, I find like that's, when we start to reconnect to the body, what tools do we have? What support system do we have? What methods do we have now to help us regulate and help us, like you said at the beginning, like these tools to help us be with what comes up.
Yeah.
You know, whenever we start to reconnect.
And I think that you mentioned there about, like, what was it,
re-traumatization.
Re-traumatization. I can't even speak today, but see that's a real thing, like, and people like we mentioned Jared, we'll get into all this in a wee second, but even just to finish off the connection bit and to be connected, then we sort of kind of need to be honest in a way, to be honest with ourselves, who am I, identity, all these things, and to be honest, then we'll have to get things out that we haven't got out, or write things down that we haven't wrote down, and this element of reliving, in terms of, you mentioned there about your lack of trust in men, and then whenever that comes into maybe a relationship and something happens, then you're triggered, and then it's and the only way, like, I'm probably painting the picture in because I can relate so much to this too, Danielle, and it's like it may as well just be happening again. It may as well just be, and then sometimes I go to myself, fuck that, what am I doing? Why did I even talk about this in the first place?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was easier suppressing it.
Yeah.
You know, it was, it was a lot easier in Manchester in the corner of a pub or whatever, you know. But the bigger picture and the, you know, that's maybe hard, and the way I'd probably describe them is like spells or moments, and they're not periods anymore. Where, like, I used to go through, like, maybe like a really good 3 months, right?
Yeah.
And it was brilliant, and I loved my life, and I was taking over the world, and everything was brilliant. And then boom, like, something happened that I was just triggered, and then that was me. And that period could have been 3 months. You know, like a long time of me going back in and reliving, and then the big stick came out because I was beating myself up, and then feel like an imposter because you shouldn't be doing what you're doing, and all these different things. And I think that is trauma or PTSD or whatever it is, but there's a fine line there between, I don't know, it's I fully believe, and you said there, you referenced it there a wee bit, like, I'm actually kind of glad that it's all happened to me in a way. Like, I'm so grateful and filled up that, okay, I have my times, but they're not 3 months anymore. You know what I mean? It could be 10 minutes, or it could be a night or whatever. I'm just like, I need space. I need to be on my own, because that's where I regulate best, on my own. And I've recognised all these patterns, so the best thing I ever done was talk about it, because I wouldn't have got to the point now where I am now, where I kind of know, right, what do I need to do if this happens, you know, or what do I need to do if some man that I don't trust, like, do something. Okay, I'm able to, I'm more equipped, and you say tools, I have more tools to be like, how do I overcome this, rather than like the self-sabotage and beat myself up and but it's a roller coaster, and it gets to a point where, and I'm sure you can relate to this now, where I kind of feel like life is kind of, it's sailing along rightly, but how often do you be like, fuck, sure, it's only a matter of time before something like,
yeah.
Does that ever come into your head, or?
Yeah, oh fuck yeah, Jesus.
So I was in Manchester the other week, right? And this is mental, like, and like I was way doing the course and everything was great and really, really, really enjoying it. No, like I was really present. I was like, I was on the youth around that time, and I was like, no, I'm glad I'm getting away, and I was able at night times I was able to sit and do my work. But you know, it was just really cool, and not having, I'm probably the most introverted extrovert you'd ever meet, if you know what I mean. So it was really good, and but I walked past the pub, and no, like and the wee Tim came into my head and was like, just go in there, you're fucking useless. And that's near 4 years down the line, like, just go in, just go for a pint. Who the fuck's going to know you're in Manchester? Isn't that mental? And I had to be like, oh, right, don't know, blah blah blah. That's obviously because like you're only one drink away from being where you finished off, really, like, and that's that I need to keep reminding myself. But it can just happen so quickly. And I was triggered by something that day that we were talking about in the coaching, you know. So that element of just keeping yourself and keeping your guard up, because I think the day you keep your guard down is the day you're kind of beat in a way.
So you were able to like see that you'd been triggered that day, and that you were then away from your normal like support systems of being at home, and then you see this like invitation almost to like go back into an old pattern. So then what did you do instead?
No, I just walked on, like, and I went home back to the Airbnb that I booked, and then I went home and laughed at myself.
That you use in that moment, you know, like,
oh, so I have reminders. So anytime I be like, because that happens, like that's just the reality of it. So I have wee reminders. So right, what, and Eamon isn't here. He's usually with me everywhere we go. But he's like my reminder, because I remember his face the last time I was on the drink, and he was like crying his eyes out. No, it's really sad. So he's my wee reminder that I don't want to make anyone ever feel like that again. And that's just it. Do you know, there's no big mad words or anything like that. That's just that wee thing, a wee vision, a wee thing. Right, okay, boom. The guy is there and the wee drawing on the... It's cool, like. Do you know, so... Just them wee reminders and them wee things that I've gathered throughout the years. But that's what I was saying to you there. So does that... like, you could be driving up the road and something could happen. Like, how do you manage that? Or how do you... Or is it experience? Or is it the more work you're doing yourself? Or what... And then we'll go into after the work that you're doing, and surely that is, you need to work more on yourself even. It's interesting.
So like, I love what you said, but yeah, it's like, it's such a, I think to be alive is not, it's not all shadow, or it's not all light and skipping and sunshine
and rainbows. And
it's not that. It's the spectrum of aliveness is also having days where you're like, holy shit, this is intense. And like, to be able to be with the full spectrum of life in all of its intensity, and to still be able to hold that and go like, yeah, this is a really fucking hard day. And like knowing that you have those tools to go. I don't think people talk enough about the fact that like we're going to have bad days, you know, like this is the shadow of healing, of like always being in this feeling of like, I'm healing, I'm on my journey, it's like, but what's it for? Like, if it's not to be able to have, days like that and go like, I see you, chimp. I know where you came from. I was triggered today. And maybe a little bit, for me, right, I can speak my own experience. If I feel triggered by something, my strategy for years and years was always, I suffered with disordered eating. So it would always be trying to control my body through food, through compensatory exercising, through just constantly driving myself into the floor. Like I would just constantly be trying to empty myself, to then fill myself and empty myself. It was this cycle of being like, I don't feel enough. I feel empty inside. Can I fill it with food? No. Can I fill it with other people? So I feel those strategies come up. And like for a long time, whenever I was in the depths of my healing, like I'm healing, and I'd have a day like that, I'd be like, oh my God, I'm broken. I'm so broken. Oh my God, like, who the fuck am I to stand in front of these people and tell them anything? And letting that go. And now if I see, when I do, I like, yeah, I had a, like last week? Yeah, like, I have them regularly, and it's real. I love it now because I have all these tools that I can play with, you know, where like, if I go through these big, like I'm in the middle, at the minute, going through like, this training, which is every week, it's bringing up all of my shit. So like, and it's bringing it up because every single time it's an invitation, like, okay, so what are you going to do? Are you going to go back to those old patterns? Are you going to have compassion for those old patterns? Are you going to be able to say to that old part of me that wants to, like, just go and like lock yourself in a room, don't go to work today, just shut yourself off, like, I see you. For a long time, that strategy worked. Thank you.
Sorry.
Yeah, and it's like, thank you for protecting me, or thank you for getting me here. Updating old strategies. Like, I'm now updating you. Now we don't do that anymore. And like listening to it as well. Like, okay, so maybe I'm tired. Maybe I do need to eat more. Maybe I do need to go back and like just be by myself. Maybe I am fucking overworking myself, and like listening to my body as when it goes to those strategies, all it's crying for is attention. All it's crying for is nurturing and to be like to be mothered. Like, my body wants to thrive and wants to feel good, so it's going to look for these strategies. So typically for me, whenever this shit comes up and whenever I feel like that, like a bad day, it's because I'm not taking care of myself. It's because I'm giving from empty, and I need to just replenish myself. So now I have tools to replenish myself, right? Like, for all of these emotions that come up. So like, my voice is raspy at the minute because I'm doing a daily practice of emotional release, which is one of the things that I teach, and that has like saved my life again, like really emotionally releasing every day, whether that's through breath work, or I love screaming into pillows and like this pillow bashing thing, which is like getting out of rage and getting out grief and getting out sadness and getting even frustration and boredom out of my body, like hand screaming. Like, I have all these tools now from learning them and then teaching them, and really seeing how they like it's like a daily practice for me. And at the minute I'm doing it every morning for like half an hour of like just cycling through these different emotional release practices. And I'm doing that for me because I need it at the minute, and I know that I'm going through like a big part of my training, and I've also just come out of a few of these big containers where I'm doing this work on sexuality and on pleasure and on embodiment and working with people and working with this deep work. And I know that I need to release that. I know that I need to let that go out of my body. I know that I can't store that. I can't hold it because it's too much. So I need these practices, and this is what I'm so grateful for, is that like, you know, I can see when triggers come up, and I can see the old strategies, the invitations to go into old patterns, and I have tools now that I can go like, I don't want to do that anymore. So it doesn't mean I'm going to have bad days, and I'm going to cry, and I'm going to have little breakdowns, you know, but I can be with those feelings and with compassion and kindness and acceptance, and kind of, also have tools to move them out of my body so I'm not holding them. Because that's what I see in hot yoga a lot, is people that come in and they're just holding years and years of trauma, of emotional baggage, of stuck energy, and they have no understanding of how to release it. And that's what we do in hot yoga, is we come in and we release, and that's the fire medicine of using heat to let the body release emotionally through breath, physically through sweat, and then on a deeper level through like going in there with that knowledge of like, okay, I can let something go here. I'm opening my body somatically in this room to let things go. So there's like I love how all this work is weaving into also like hot yoga and how I teach.
Yeah, and I think that, like, I asked you there, where does it all come from? And obviously, I think it's clear now where it sort of comes from, and the passion that you have, and now that you're facilitating, and like, it's incredible. But do you think that there's still, there's probably been a shift, probably more in the last couple of years, but do you still think there's a lot of, not like a taboo, like, but I don't know, people still have I don't know, maybe society, there's still like I don't know what way to put it, but there's like a stigma around nearly alternative work that we could be doing within ourselves. Like I went to a doctor when I was 15, 14, 15. And that's whenever I started taking antidepressants. So, and that's not, again, no, but I can only recognise all these things, and different people who I'm working with, and even young people who come into the rehab centre, they may be 18.
Yeah.
What are you taking for medication? And I get this list of stuff, and and I'm like, suppress. You're not feeling, like, and you're creating an environment, right, where I can come in, and there isn't a pharmacist on the door when you walk in giving you a leaflet, and there's nobody in the way out giving you a box of tablets, but there's something special that happens in it, there's no doubt about it, and it's not airy-fairy, and it's not sort of taboo-ish, it's a really safe place. But do you still think people don't go or don't use or don't seek alternative options or treatments because of a stigma or a fear or the way we're supposed to think?
Yeah, and so when I first started the studio, that was my aim, was that I wanted to make it accessible, and I've been very, very blessed with I've always had male friends. I've had some my closest friends are men, and have been from when I was very young. So I always, when I found yoga, I always wanted to make it as accessible as possible for men and women, so that it wasn't this place that your wife or your girlfriend goes to, she goes off to yoga. So it's that's
Americanized or something. I think that's what I'm trying to,
Yeah, and so for me anyway, how I have, or what I've created in the studio, and what I see from our ratio and our numbers, and is that it is a safe place for both men and women to come into, and it's functional, and there is healing there, and there's a deeper healing to it, but it's so invitational, and it's you can come in and do as much as you want, you can go as deep as you want, you can come in and just treat it as yoga in the heat, but eventually after a while of practicing, it becomes your therapy and it becomes your sanctuary, because we do create, that is our number one intention, is to create a safe space for you to come and let go of the armor, let go of all the protective mechanisms that you've created to shut ourselves off from the world, because the world can be really fucking painful, when we are feeling, if we are in this place of a little soft animal that comes out of a shell, that's what I feel like hot yoga does. It lets everyone just let their shell, leave your big hard shell at the door and be that soft animal in this room, and allow everything to come and the emotions to come, and yeah, I think a lot of people, I don't know, society maybe, and especially Ireland, here in Ireland as well, there's still that feeling of that we're doing something hippy dippy and an area, but that's okay. The people who need this medicine, who need this practice, and who are drawn towards me or the other teachers at the studio, they'll come when they're ready, and when you're ready, you're fucking ready, and you're there, and that's the best part of my job, is when people come in and I'm you have actively chosen to step into the fire, you've actively chosen to step into something that is hard work, and that is challenging, and that is, you'll meet yourself in a different way every single time, and you'll leave feeling more alive, and you'll leave feeling more connected, and that's a guarantee. And that's an incredible thing that I feel like I've been able to help, at least just create, or offer, and I'm just a part of it. I'm just a cog in the machine of what it is, because it is also my lifeline as well, I practice, it's my practice, being in the heat with that fire, that flames of letting go, of releasing, that's my medicine as well. So
and you're on that journey too, I suppose, and we're never cured,
because we're not broken, there's nothing to cure, we're not fit,
there we are,
fix,
and all the more importance then for whenever we do have them periods or whatever, that back to the identity and the connecting and accepting us for who we are, then we can be you're a dick, and just laugh at yourself and play with yourself in that way, and not take it too seriously, or it's not life or death, because we're all only humans. When we're trying our best. But let's talk about the other work that you're doing now, the one-to-one stuff that you're doing, and why you're doing it and what you talk about maybe Irish society and how and how listen, what you're doing I'm very passionate about.
Yeah.
Do I speak about it enough? No. Definitely not. Yeah. Can I speak about it? Yes.
Yeah.
So let's talk about it.
Yeah. And that's it, you know, it's like, oh wow, okay, so I feel like there's shame, there's like fear, there's, oh my god, like, are people going to judge me, or people like even saying these words out loud, you know, like I feel that all in my body. And like, is it part of our society or culture, what we've been taught by our parents? Is it deeper? Is it older? Is it, you know, part of this land? Is it in every single human to feel like a little bit of shame around this? I don't know, but I know my own experience of this has been experiencing like sexual trauma and assault at a real, like in my formative teenage years, like when I was 17, and then again when I was 18, and then again when I was, so it was like this repetitive pattern that I felt I was falling into, and then that just led to like disconnect. So my journey of reconnecting has been through that way of like reconnecting to my sexuality and reconnecting to my body and reconnecting to what that means and what comes up for me, and in relating with others as well, and in relating with community and being seen in that. So like where I've been working with this for 2 years now, and only recently have I been able to like, okay, I'm doing this.
Change your Instagram bio.
So huge. Like,
did you change it?
Yeah.
You know what?
Yeah, I did. And it was like such a big moment, and I was like, oh my god, no one gives a shit. Like, no one really cares. Like, but for me, I was like, oh my god, wow, I've done it. So, but it is these big moments of like, okay, how do I want to show up in this world, and how do I want to be perceived, and like this projection that we put out of like, you know, we're talking about like, I am Danielle, I am this, and like Instagram bios are like, they're wild, but they are this like little, these 3 lines or 4 lines of like, this is what I'm offering, this is who I am. Like I think that social media is such a different like branch altogether. But yeah, the work that I'm doing now is I'm training with the C School of Embodiment to become a somatic sexological body worker. So working with people on a one-to-one basis, and also bringing this work into group facilitation work. Like I do believe in the power of community, and that is where my like gift, as you would say, is to work with big groups of people. Like I fucking love that. So, and then being able to work, you know, with sexuality and with relating, and this training is intense, and it is deep, and it is like, it feels at the minute like it's more for me than it is for anything else, because I'm like, as much as when I found this work, I was like, oh, I feel healed, and then like every week I'm like, oh my god, okay, emotionally releasing everyone, like I've lost my voice, people are like, you sick? And I'm like, no, I'm literally like moving through like trauma that I thought I'd processed. I'm going through stories that I thought I processed, belief systems that I had even before I was 17, you know, like I'm tapping into these things that I was like, oh my god, I didn't even know that was there. Like I didn't know there was anything beneath the trauma, but there was also, I lived 17 years before that, like, geez, so that's like where I am at the minute. And yeah, like this somatic coaching of bringing people into their bodies.
Can we break that down a wee bit?
Yeah,
so
of course,
somatic,
yeah.
so
yeah.
What is, so we'll start off with maybe like the somatic healing side of it. What is that, and what does that look like? What does somatic mean? Yeah, it's such a buzzword at the minute, like somatic. It is, but it's what you do in yoga every day, you know, like all the time. It's somatic is body based. It's any time that you are coming into your body, and it's for me anyway, how I think of it is, it's a word to refer to like when you work with the body. So cognitive, like CBT, is all in the mind, right? And then when we start to work somatically with the body, that's like that filtering down process of like, okay, but how does it feel to be in your body right now? Like, how does it feel to have a leg and have an arm and have a, like, you know, even in this moment, like, what can you feel in your body? Like, what emotions? Can you feel your heartbeat? Can you feel, like, activation? What does shame feel like in the body? Yeah. So, like, we have these abilities to check in, and, like, this somatic inquiry, like, and that's what I've been weaving into yoga, right? It's like, okay, what are you feeling now? What are you feeling now? What's going on in your body? Checking in, what's a 10 out of 10 feel like? What's a 1 out of 10?
And that's always been there, like that's always been there, but just bringing awareness to that with language. And that's what this course and all the trainings that I'm doing is just giving me language to explain something that people are already doing or already yearning for or seeking for naturally. So the somatic, is body-based therapy. So
and that's something that I would now put in a par with, like, the cognitive stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Totally, because I think that it's very much... I think there's one thing going and talking about all your problems or traumas or your story or all these different things, but how do I react when that door just slammed there?
Yeah.
You know, what's that doing for me? Like, how do I react when you talk about the journey of maybe coming back into your sexuality? Fuck, I hope she doesn't ask me. How do I react? Do you know? How do I react with, I don't know, just different things that you've spoke about there that I've found, like, fuck me, why did I even ask her on this podcast? Yeah. Seriously. So that's like, right, okay, so what's really going on? Yeah. So I'm trying to, like, deflect or numb or whatever. Yeah. So the best way, and that's why I think it's so important, because I've done all the CBTs and fucking psychologists and a lot of stuff like that. And the best way I can describe, and that's why we're going to get into maybe the sex stuff now, the best way I can describe my life and my recovery is, and I was thinking about this, so let's use sport as the context, or you as the metaphor, if you like, and be like, okay, so I done, which I did do, okay, so I done my cruciate when, like, 8 weeks ago. So say I got my operation done well, got the cruciate into a really good point, done all my rehab, was flying, and I turned around to you in 9 months' time, Danielle, and says, I'm fucking really flying here. I am, like, back to being the best player in Antrim. I am ready to go. I feel it. It's class. But I haven't played a match yet. So, bring that back into my recovery. Doing all these things, ticking all these boxes, going the lengths, having hard conversations, bringing up shit, trying to evolve and grow and be the best version of me. And genuinely, I thought that I was in a really good spot. But I didn't expose myself to certain situations that I needed to expose myself to feel, to know where I was progressing. And then when I did do that, I was like, boom, what the fuck? Like, you are worse than what you were whenever before you know. So that's the kind of roller coaster crossroads that I was telling you about, that I was on. And it's, I'm okay with it, because 90% of my life is really amazing. It's class. So I've accepted that that's the wee 10% that needs more work. But that journey of what you're saying there, and I talked about it before in here with Sean, like, whenever I was, like, partying in uni and stuff, like, I found myself standing in the middle of the Kremlin, which is a gay bar in Belfast, and looking around me going, is this me? Is this what I am? Like, that fucking scary place of, like, what is going on here? So that's my, and that's why I think that this somatic stuff and the stuff that you're doing, I'm like, you're like nearly like a magnet for me, to be honest. And it's like, right, how can I, without being sound like a stalker, but how can I spend time with her? How can I get talking to her? How can I work with her? Because I feel like the universe is somehow, I'm very, I'd be a big believer in, like, be very spiritual in a way, and you know, in the universe and stuff. But anyway, I'm going off one. But I think I think that that's a bit of my journey of where I'm at and what's really playing out. And is it difficult? Yes. Does it have an impact on my ego? Absolutely, because I'm a 26-year-old male and all these things. Regarding, like, sexuality and stuff like that. I've no problem with that now. You know, I know what I am and what I stand for and who, but that's okay. But it's the other side of it's going deeper and deeper and deeper, and how deep do you need to go, or how deep do you need to get to, or how, whatever, to get to a point where you do feel confident, or you're not going like this whenever a door slams, or you're not, you know, during certain times if something happens, then you're fucking away, you know, and you're not present in that moment of intimacy or whatever. So talk to me more about that sort of. Assume that's the type of work that you're going down, and would I be right? Yeah. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing all
that.
It's like,
I'm sweating, like, but it's uncomfortable, but it's good, because I know there's people there, and I know this for a fact, Danielle, like, you mentioned there about yoga not being about you.
Yeah.
This isn't about me.
Yeah.
I'm referencing to me because I know there's an awful lot of people on the other end of that camera.
Yeah.
Need it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So is it making me uncomfortable? Do I want to do this? No. Like, I don't, like, not necessarily. Do you know what I mean? It'd be a lot easier to sit in the corner and let things play out and do this in private. Of course, like, but I think that there's not enough people in a position. Sorry, a lot of people are in a position but aren't doing enough about it. And I feel like, okay, with a small platform that I have, there's a lot of people suffering in this area, but guess what?
Yeah.
You can get out of it. So that's why I'm sort of bringing this to you, like.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. And that's it. It's like we're...
You right, Sean?
Yeah, like bringing these conversations out of the shadow, like that's like a really important thing, I think. And really just being able to say these words, and also being able to like track shame and track discomfort, and like, I'm feeling shame in my body, like what does that feel like, and how can I deactivate that through breath and through the tools that we have. And that's what this work is, you know, like for me at least, like it is about that. The somatic part of it is like tracking how these emotions and these old stories and these exiled parts of us, like how they are showing up in our bodies, and how are we with them. Like, do I trust that I have capacity to hold all those parts and to be with those parts? Like, yeah, like, hi, shame, like I see you, I feel you, I'm here. I'm not trying to push you down or suppress you. I'm not trying to pretend that you don't exist. These stories that I have about my body or my safety, or this, you know, old paradigm or old part of me that didn't trust men or didn't trust intimacy, or like cut myself off from pleasure. Like, this is my lived experience of moving from a place of complete disconnect to aliveness, and to being able to like step fully into relating, and like how this work then, I mean, one of the first stepping stones and the basis of it all and the foundations of it all for me and for what I like share and what my work is boundaries and consent, is knowing. So first it becomes with knowing your body, being able to like speak, give words to and metaphors to how you're feeling, and not like, I'm sad, I'm angry, okay, what is shame, what does it actually feel like? And you said this, right? Yeah. Like, so there's like whole textures and tastes and complexities to that one word, shame, and you can go so deep down, like you're tracking this root, this mycelium network of that one word, right? And when we start to become more literate, and when we speak this somatic mother tongue language of our bodies are constantly communicating to us, they're constantly telling us things. So when we start to listen, then we can start to go into these avenues that have so many stories. Like, sexuality is fire medicine as well. Like, working with Eros, it's so many stories, so much conditioning, so much deep rootedness to it. So like, yeah, like it's I think it's really brave to talk about it and to want to go into it. And the boundaries and consent is really the big piece. The introductory to all of this is knowing your body, knowing the language of your body, being able to speak it, being able to talk about it. And then moving into like, okay, what is my boundary? What is my yes? How can I follow desire? How can I follow arousal? What is my no? What does my body not want? What do I not want? What are my needs? What do I want? And this is like, this is so much bigger. It's like this like fluctuates, this pendulation of like, when I know my yes and no, I can bring that into every single decision. Like, I can literally follow arousal. That's my day. Like we were talking about earlier, like we can make our lives, you know, if I want to, what do I want to work? Like, who do I want to talk to? Who do I want to spend my time with? Like, that's my yes and my no. Yeah. And like a lot of the work that I'm doing at the minute anyway, like, because I'm still in my training, is just that. Like, what does your yes feel like? What does it taste like? What does it sound like? What is your body? How do you know when it's a yes? And then how do you know what a no is? Like, how does it feel to say no? How does it feel to receive a no? Are you being rejected? Every time someone says no to me, do I feel rejection? Do I feel abandonment? Do I feel betrayed? Do I feel not enough? So if I've come in here and I feel like I'm not enough, and I feel like I need to prove myself, and I feel on that brink of like, oh my God, I don't belong here. Oh my God, I'm about to get rejected. I'm not going to ask you for anything. I'm not going to make my desire. I'm not going to ask for anything. Yeah. Because I'm terrified that you'll tell me that you'll say no.
So you wouldn't ask to take your shoes off?
Yeah. Because I'm like, oh my God, what if he says no?
And then you'd be sitting, and that'd be a waste of time.
And I'm sitting in discomfort, and like you said, I'm being pulled away. My focus of attention is pulled away because all I'm thinking about is the discomfort. Like I'm uncomfortable, you know, or I'm thinking about something else. My attention's pulled. So for me to be fully present, fully in my body, like I have desires and wants, and so do you. We all have desires and wants to be embodied, to be present. So like, the boundaries and consent work is the first stepping stone, like, in that. And how much do you think that people are in this hamster wheel and they don't take time to ask themselves what do I actually want? Yeah. Or there may be a part of something that they know deep down they don't want to be a part of. Yeah. And there's a lot. Do you think that there's, and you said there, you can find your yes and no to a lot of things. Yeah. Almost probably everything, because taking this back to maybe always listen to your gut. Yeah, you know, that type of, so what, there's a somatic side to that, of course, because, am I right? Yeah. In terms of, okay, I'm listening to what my body is telling me. Yeah. And how am I then going to react to that? But there's an element of being trapped too. Like, so how do we then get to a point where we're, I suppose it's back to the connection bit, where we can say no, or we know what we want? Because a lot of people who I've worked with, in terms of who have been through sort of abuse or anything trauma related, don't know their worth. So it's easier to, not easier, they just don't know any better. Yeah. And I've been there. Yeah. To just keep doing what you've been doing because, sure, what do you mean? It's only me. Yeah. You know, so how much does like self-worth and value play a part in all this? Oh, so much. Like it's all of it, you know, because and I think just to approach all of this work with compassion and acceptance, and like radical acceptance, you know, of like all the stories and all the exiled parts of us that we've pushed down and suppressed and put into shadow. And like, you know, when you do start working with this, whether it's with a one-on-one facilitator, whether it's just in your yoga practice, whether it's your own practice that you do at home, you know, there's so many resources now and so many tools that you can just begin to like ask the body, you know, like, what am I feeling in this moment? And just, it's a muscle that we flex again and again and again until it becomes so strong that you can start to ask yourself those questions. Like you said, you know, like, what's coming up for me as this door creaks or as Sean moves around the room, you know, like the hypervigilance of like, I'm unsafe, I need to look for danger, I'm, you know, so.
Can't sit with my back to a cafe or a restaurant or anything. Need to be facing it. Yeah. It's different wee things. Would you have wee things that you just know?
Yeah, and like that's me taking care of my animal as well, of like, okay, there is a sense of like, I'm always going to be searching for safety, and like if I can create safety within myself and know that I am safe, then all of this work starts to drop down a little bit deeper. And you know, you're speaking about intimacy, like this is the like feeling safe in intimacy with the partners that we choose to be intimate with. Feeling safety, it comes from us first. Like, I have to create safety within myself. I have to feel safe. And I think safety then, for me to feel safe, I have to know that I'm going to, like, that I know my boundaries. Yeah. I'm not going to overstep my boundaries to try and people please, because I think that I'm not enough. I'm not going to overstep my boundaries to keep you happy and you and your pleasure, because I think that I don't deserve pleasure myself. So a lot of this is actually like building an awareness of my own ability to feel pleasure within myself. So like I speak about, I've just been, really delving into this, this like vertical versus the horizontal. So my vertical is my ability to self-regulate, to self-soothe, to resource and be regulated from my own touch, my own breath, my own presence, my own intimacy with myself, right? So when I am tapped into my vertical, like I go and take time by myself. I go and like I take care of my sleep hygiene, of my energetic hygiene. I go into my little cave of like, okay, how do I resource and regulate myself? But then also we need to balance that with the horizontal as well. Like, cause like we said, connection is important to humans and feeling belonging in a tribe. So then also like reaching out to others and like, how am I communicating and connecting to others and spending time in community and spending time, socializing and being outside. And like, I think it's this balance point of the vertical and the horizontal, that when we find that imbalance, I know that I'm enough and I'm whole. So when I reach out, I'm reaching out from a place of wholeness. Mm-hmm. And I can also stick with my boundaries because I know I come back to myself, come back to the vertical. And I teach that in yoga as well, because in yoga, we don't have phones, we don't have other people. I'm not doing anything for you. All I'm doing is like keeping the heat on and saying some words to make you move. But it's you that in those moments when you're feeling that intensity and that activation, when the door slams, when the heat gets really hot in yoga, in that moment, it's you that is regulating. And like that ability to tap back in again to like, okay, my breath, okay, my heart rate, what am I feeling in this moment? How can I be with myself in this moment? How can I stay within my own boundaries of like, okay, I need to spend time by myself. Like that's the, coming back to boundaries and coming back to knowing your yes and your no is all about like channeling, like coming back to that verticality. Yeah.
And I can relate so much to that. Yeah. And it's, I think even, being involved probably my whole life within teams and always been surrounded by people and always feeling alone.
Yeah.
How's that work out? So, but I see what you're saying there about your cave and about your, like, I have that. You know what I mean? I live on my own. I fucking, like, in a wee one bedroom, my den. No, very rarely would people, like, come to visit and all. Like, not that I'm like that, but I'm like, it's just worked out that way. And I'm like, whenever I close the door, I'm like, I'm with me now, because I like myself.
Yes.
And it's took me so much, like, such a long time to be like, fuck, I can sit now on a Saturday evening and watch Netflix or do whatever, or watch nothing, sit there or journal or work on myself and be so content and comfortable because I like spending time with me. I don't need to go and like see you to make me happy.
Yeah.
Back to what we were talking about at the start about like I'll be happy when I get this X, Y, or Z. No, I'm happy now and I'm enjoying this process and this journey. For whatever it is, like, and it's so interesting, and we'll wrap up soon, like, but I think that there's loads of things that we touched on there. And what would be the best way if there's someone watching and being like, right, fuck, that was what it was. It was like some powerful things that we're talking about there, but like, how do I start? How do I start the journey of self-discovery, or I don't know, finding me or Nemo or whoever? Like, how do we go about that? Like, because I'd ask you now, like, are you proud of yourself? I know, and then how do you react to that then? Like, you're like, oh, like, laugh, like, because we laughed at the fact, do we? I don't know.
Yeah, like the laughter there was like, oh yeah, because I can still feel like the resistance to feeling proud of myself,
So, because were you ever told by someone that I'm proud of you?
I'm very lucky. Like my parents are so. I think I've just always had this sense of having to prove myself to exist,
right?
Having to prove my worth, and like that feeling of like unworthiness and not enoughness. And like I feel that on my body as a desire to like close in and like hide myself away, or like, you know, oh no, that's not me. Yeah. Like you know, it's everyone else. But like, I know that this work is profound and powerful, and I know that working with sexuality is like also incredibly deep rooted here. And like my desire to work with men and with women and in groups and community, because I have a lived experience of how powerful this work is in my own body. Like I know that I can, that's my medicine, that's my gift. I can be like, there is hope. And if I can help one person connect to their pleasure and connect to their vertigo, like, you know, connect to themselves, and if I can do that, then like that's all I need in this life, you know. And like, and also feel that in myself as well, you know, feel that sense of like, oh my god, I'm alive, like what a fucking life. Even in the days where I'm screaming into pillows and, you know, like getting triggered in coffee shops and like having to like journal for fucking days, you know, like it's still like, oh my god, like this is life, this is what I'm here for, I'm here to experience all of it. And like I'm so proud of myself for getting to this point where I feel that aliveness, and where I know my boundaries. I know when I'm a no, I know when I'm a yes. I can ask you to take my shoes off, and if you were to say no, keep them on, I would still be okay. You know, I wouldn't collapse, you know. I feel like I feel a lot of pride for myself for being at this point in my life, for getting here to this point where I'm like, oh my god, this is what it feels like to be alive. You know? So yeah, I feel
that's class.
I feel proud of myself.
I'm proud of you.
Thanks.
Well done. And I feel like we could take a time's up, is it?
Sean's forward.
No, I feel like we could probably do another episode, but maybe we will in like 6 months' time after we go into a bit of diving.
Yeah, that would be cool.
Yeah, wouldn't it? And just to see what I've learnt and stuff, I think that would be cool.
Because it's tender waters to start to talk about our own experiences with sexuality, you know, and to also, it's so individual and it's such a personal process as well. So yeah. That would be interesting. Yeah,
that would be, wouldn't it? Yeah. But Danielle, thanks very much.
Thank you.
It was really good. And Danielle Darcy on Instagram, isn't it? Yeah. And then Hot Yoga Belfast. If anyone's in the same predicament that I'm in, or was in, I suppose, and want to have a chat to someone, don't be afraid to reach out, please. Because I think having these conversations, they're tough. Was I wanting to leave the room there loads of times? Yes. I'm sure Danielle felt the same at certain times.
We survived.
The sweat patches are... But no, really good chat, Danielle. Thanks so much. And yeah, it's good to be back, everybody. Good to be back on the hot seat. Even though... That's another thing. She made me move seat.
I asked for it. I made a request.
But no, thanks very much. And yeah, keep having the conversation. Keep looking out for each other. And I will see you all next week. Cheers.
Did you know that 40% of all pet owners have had a furry friend go missing? And unfortunately, 60% of those missing pets are never recovered? This is why we developed Fetch Tag. It attaches to your pet's collar and will allow any member of the public to identify your pet, phone you directly, and discover your pet's home address by simply scanning the QR code or tapping the interactive tag. To keep things simple, there's no requirement to download an app, no monthly subscription fees, and setup takes less than 60 seconds. Fetch Tag does not need batteries and is completely waterproof. Once the superhero who finds your pet scans the tag, Fetch Tag will show them a full profile of your pet plus much more. They'll see your pet's name, breed, personality, a picture of you and your pet, your phone number, and even Google directions to bring your pet home. When scanned, the Fetch Tag triggers an email to you with Google coordinates of where it was last scanned. Give your pet the best chance of being returned home with a Fetch Tag.